Alright, today impromptu Q&A video. Didn't put up a poll or anything, but a few people lately have asked questions and it made sense to answer them in a video like this, so I waited till I had 4 or 5, and never before seen guest appearance for the reader of the questions.
Were you traveling poker player before you started this channel? Do you just live off savings when you're going through Downswings?
Alright, to answer the first question, not... Okay, I was for a little bit before the channel, but not like, that wasn't my entire poker life before the channel. I played a little before and during grad school. I had a permanent address, and then I lived in Vegas for about 2 years. I had a permanent address, and then I played when I could before and during law school, had a permanent address. Summers of law school, I went to places where I heard there was much better poker, which was one summer MGM National Harbor, a second summer Atlantic City and Windstar in Oklahoma. And then it was really a result of Corona. I was in my parents' house in New York during most of the intense shutdown, and when casinos reopened, Maryland Live opened in July, it was fairly quick, and then the Horseshoe Baltimore opened in September. I didn't want to be that far away from New York because I was worried things would shut down again. So I wasn't really willing to go farther than Maryland. So I did that using Airbnbs. I did it at first for 80 days in a row, and then I did it sporadically at after Thanksgiving, and then before Christmas, and then after Christmas, and even into February. The thing was, I realized that it made sense doing this with motels and Airbnbs. It was pretty efficient, and I could move. I don't need to play the same poker room for an entire year. Also, I didn't need to keep so much cash liquid. So if you're going to rent an apartment, the two main ways to make sure you get the apartment: one, you have an on-the-books job. You tell your landlord who your employer is, your landlord calls to see how much money you make, and then your landlord is confident you could pay the rent. If you don't have an on-the-books job, they still want to make sure you have enough money. They're willing to somehow let you rent the apartment if they're confident you have enough money. They usually look for a multiplier of how much rent you're going to pay for the entire lease period, usually 2.5x or 3x. So if you're going to rent an apartment for 12 months and pay $1,000 a month in rent, the total rent for the lease period is $12,000. And they might look for 3x. If you can show them in a bank account you have $36,000, they don't care that you have a self-employed job or no job at all, then they're confident you could pay the rent. So I was keeping a lot of cash liquid, not in my portfolio, in order to get an apartment. And then when I was playing, mostly in Maryland, some in Atlantic City, in 2020 and early 2021, not only was I enjoying the moving, I realized I don't need to keep all this cash liquid. I could put it in my portfolio and it could work for me. So it was really, I wasn't really thinking about it until it became a necessity, somewhat of a necessity, to live that way during Corona. And then I kept it up because it made a lot of sense. And downswings, there are break-even stretches. I don't know how many real downswings I've had, but that's why. So I keep a lot less liquid than I did when I thought I might need to rent an apartment. I still keep some amount liquid, and that's the reason. If I'm going through break-even stretches, but I still need to pay for things, I just deal with the liquid amount. Once money goes into my portfolio, it doesn't come back out. It'll come back out when I retire. It doesn't come back out now. So I think in 2021, I kind of started in April. I went to Vegas when I was done playing in Maryland, and I was confident things weren't shutting down and I could get farther away than New York. I went to Vegas, Oklahoma, back to Vegas, Council Bluffs at the end of the year, but I think I started with about 10,000 liquid, and I had a 2 to 3 month stretch where it was a combination of breaking even and winning, but winning less than I expected. But the whole time I needed to pay for things, so I think it got down to 8,000. That was the lowest my fund ever got to. Nowhere near zero. Was never worried. It's actually, I probably keep more than I need in that that group of money that's liquid for paying bills. But yeah, usually try to keep 10 to 12,000 liquid, and yeah, I don't know that it's ever gotten below 8,000.
Hard worker. I'd like to know more about how you invested this summer's earnings, but understand if that's none of our business.
So what I did with the money from the summer, the same thing I do anytime I have extra money. So good transition from the last question. When I have this like very liquid amount of money, if I'm breaking even, it goes down a little. Winning months, and I'm making more than I'm spending, it goes up. When it gets like so high that I know it's really unnecessary, well then I take some of it and I put it into my portfolio. That's what I do anytime I have money when I'm playing poker, mostly, and I have extra money due to that. That's what happens. When I was dealing over the summer and I had more money than I needed, that's what happens. Anytime I feel like I could like part with some of the money in that very liquid account, I send it to my portfolio and I add to my positions.
Thanks for the effort. If you haven't covered this, how about a video, your parameters for when to switch tables or rooms?
Switching tables, so there's a ton that goes into it. It could probably be like its own series of videos. It's just gonna be one part of this video though, so I'll try to keep it short. I usually have a sense of what like a typical game is for that city or that room. And if I'm confident I can find better, I switch tables, which is why in places I've never been or very rarely been, I don't. I didn't switch tables despite being at like a lukewarm table in St. Louis in October. My table in Columbus was solid, but I don't know, there might have been better tables out there. I had no idea. Didn't switch tables in Perryville, didn't switch tables in Delaware Park. When I don't know what's going on, I can't really say, I know there's a better game out there than this, so I'm going to switch tables. I mean, I don't know what else is out there. But I know Vegas well, I know Council Bluffs well, I know Atlantic City well, so if I'm just at a table and I'm confident I could switch and find better, I do it. I've been on a table that I might call like a 3 out of 10. I'm like, I could definitely find better. I move. I've been on tables that I think are like 8 out of 10, but I think there's better out there, so I switch. Conversely, there have been times in Vegas I'm on a table that's like a 4 out of 10, and I'm like, I'm not sure I can find better than this. As like weak as this is, this could very well be the best in the room. I really don't want to change tables, find worse, and be mad that I didn't stay here. So like, I'm gonna stick it out for a while. But it's two different things. Changing, like wanting to change, like when to change, and what I'm looking for when I change. I've actually been working on a list of characteristics, what I look for in the next table when I know I'm gonna be changing tables. So when I get that list of traits done, I'll make that video. But yeah, it's tough to quantify, but if I'm like pretty confident better is out there, I switch, because I'm trying to play in the best game.
Follower, I'm sure you're just gonna play the hotel comp system as well as you play cards. What small hotel chains are you generally looking to collect points on?
So it's actually not a ton to it, although I'll talk about it because I don't usually talk about things besides the casinos and Airbnb. If I can, I stay in a casino. It's very convenient, and in Vegas, it's very inexpensive. Beyond that, I like Airbnb because I've mentioned it, I can buy gift cards, I can pay less than the value of the card, and I also get cash back on my credit card, and I get pretty close to 8% off like every Airbnb transaction as a result of those two things. They have nothing to do with Airbnb, it's all happening on my end, but I wind up with close to 8% off on all my Airbnb transactions. Not every city though is great for Airbnb. I also, if I'm driving cross country, don't love checking into an Airbnb that I've never been to like late at night. If I'm going to drive like 10 hours and get there in the evening after dark, I don't like it myself. Sometimes it's tough to read like street signs and addresses. Also, probably not like the host's favorite thing to have a stranger first arriving like pretty late at night after dark. So there are times I stay at motels, don't have a motel chain I look to first, but I do you know, the middleman. I use hotels.com, which I think might have like merged with Expedia. When I'm browsing on hotels.com, I see things about Expedia and I get emails from both now. It used to just be hotels.com. It's really not much. I don't know, I haven't like compared the perks of all these liaisons where you can book your rooms, but I think on the way out in January, on the way to Vegas, I had a room for one night in Tennessee and a room for one night in Kansas. And on the way back, I filmed some videos from my room in Maryland when I was playing at the Horseshoe Baltimore. So it's not much. I think it's just those 3 reservations, me and motels this year. So I don't put a lot of like time into thinking about what the best is, but the perk of hotels.com is every 10 nights, they'll average what you paid for those 10 nights, and whatever that number is, somewhere between like $50 and $75. The average of every 10 nights, on your 11th night, you get that much money off. So if you paid exactly $75 for 10 nights in a row, then you have a $75 credit on your next reservation. So it's something, but I don't really know if it's like better or worse than Expedia or another entity. But no, it's not like I always look for like Marriott, I always look for Super 8, I always look for Motel 6. I don't care. Usually just look in the reviews and try to gauge if it's like clean and fairly safe, and that's about it. And remember, rice is a spoon food.